John, you have 25 years of experience. You've been working in data science for the last 25 years, right? That's just crazy. I didn't even know data science has been here for 25 years. So you must know a thing or two about data science. That's so cool.
Yeah,
And
the term data science is just branding. So the term data science hasn't been around for 25 years, but all of the disciplines that make it up, like data analytics, machine learning, data visualization, these have been around for a long time.
yeah, well, into a large extent, this is a wave that some people are riding, right? But for you, it's been, the daily hustle for so long, which is really cool. And we will discuss today how AI can be applied in recruiting, because for the last 7 years, you've been focusing on talent acquisition, right? And this is of interest within our community, where people are wondering. I mean, within our community, tech recruiters and talent acquisition specialists. So these people are wondering, like, what's next for us now when the sourcing is being semi-automated, messaging with ChatGPT. So this is what we are going to discuss. So thanks for joining us on this podcast. And yeah, like, would you just give us a brief intro to what you are, what are you up to within Nebula, within the company that you are working, and how, what was your impression of the industry and the evolution within all these 25 years?
For sure. So those are two very different questions, I suppose. Let's tackle the first one, which is Nebula and what I do there. So any of your listeners can go right now to nebula.io and you can create a free account and kind of kick the tires on what we have over there. Our vision is to automate as many aspects of talent acquisition as possible. So as you mentioned there, finding the right candidates, drafting messages to them. We want a human in the loop at all of these stages. There's a good, especially, I know you're recording from Europe, and so certainly in Europe, there's regulatory pressure, though there is also kind of in New York City, that kind of thing. Having fully automated solutions, there's a very high bar in placing people into jobs. If you're deciding, if you're using an algorithm to 100% fully automate, make decisions on who's appropriate for a job, there's obviously big regulatory hurdles, and there should be. But so our platform, there's a human in the loop. So a kind of a common workflow would be when you're looking to hire somebody, you probably instantly know the job title, some of the key skills that you want to be hiring. So you can go into our platform, you can just type those in. You can say, like, what's the kind of role that you have a lot of experience in recruiting? What's the kind of a role that you might be hiring for
So
right now, or that you might be interested in looking up in a platform like
now
that?
one of the roles would be VP of engineering.
Nice. Okay, so you could go into the platform and in natural language, just type, find me a VP of engineering. And we will then use proprietary generative AI models that we have created ourselves in order to be able to take that small amount of information and expand it into a great search query.
Mhm.
So we will, in that kind of example with VP of engineering, there's some generic kinds of things like computer science knowledge, best practices for managing software development. These are the kinds of things that the generative AI model will generate. If you provide me with more context, like you say, find me a VP of engineering in Ohio,
Mhm.
or find me a VP of engineering with Python experience or agile frameworks, or the more information you provide, our proprietary generative AI will take that information and use it appropriately. So if you say that this person must be in Ohio, a state in the United States, then we will automatically apply a filter to your search that is constrained to
Mhm.
just Ohio. If you say things, if you provide more context, like the agile example or experience with computer science, we will expand on that. So the more detail you happen to have in your mind, the less guessing we need to do as to what you're looking for. But we will nevertheless enrich the information that you do provide us. And then we instantly rank. At this time, we're only available for searching over people in the US. We will be expanding that shortly. But for now, our database is over 100 million people in the US. So it's a blend of different data sources, all publicly available. well, all publicly available in terms of the information that you would post about yourself. And then we blend that with private data sources for getting contact details, for getting compensation data. So we work with a company that processes for the federal government, for the US federal government, payroll information. And so we can use information like a person's job title, years of experience, skills, location to estimate what their comp should be. So anyway, so a blend of different kinds of data sources, but over 100 million profiles. And we instantly, based on, like, you came into the platform, you said, I'm looking for a VP of engineering. We take that, expand it, enrich it into something that will be great for bringing back match results. And then we instantly rank everyone in the US for your job. And so when you see that first page of results, anybody that you like, you can start messaging them right away. So we'll look up email addresses, phone numbers, social links. You can do emails or SMSs in the platform. We have automation tools in the platform for sending messages to those people. You can create shortlists. On those shortlists or on your search results, you get lots of analytics about your search, about the individuals in the search. So like the compensation data that I just mentioned, we'll aggregate that up to your search level so that, if you do the same search for that VP of engineering in Ohio versus in New York, you're going to get a different comp distribution for that search. And so it allows you to plan what you need to be, what kind of comp you might need for a particular kind of role. And this is extremely nuanced. So unlike any other tool out there, we aren't taking that title, VP engineering, and saying, okay, like people with that title, what kind of comp do they get? We're granularly taking tons of information from the profile, specific skills they have, specific years of experience that they have. And so whether you're looking at the individual level or the aggregate level across a search result or a short list, you're getting extremely nuanced information across things like compensation, geography, what kinds of companies these people are coming from, what kinds of educational institutions they're coming from. And so, so lots of analytics. And so helping you with the planning with those data analytics. And then the key thing, right, is that once you have people that you like, that you want to contact, you need to be messaging them. And today we have some limited functionality around using generative AI models to suggest outreach messages to contact these people. But in the coming months, we will be rolling out some really cool functionality where, in the same way that you're getting pushed suggestions of particular candidates for particular projects that you're trying to fill, we will be pushing you messages to review and send off. So based on the specific person's profile, based on the role that you're hiring for, potentially based on attributes of your company, if you want, we will draft an initial outreach message that's customized to that exact situation. And then whether the person replies or doesn't, we will automatically suggest follow-ups to you at an appropriate cadence. So if they reply, that's the easiest situation. We then suggest a response that's based on the context of all the conversation so far. If they don't respond, then we can suggest follow-up messages. And so this makes it makes the talent acquisition process so much more fun and so much easier that you're being pushed these nudges of, here's a great candidate to look out for. Here's a suggested follow-up step. Here's a message that we drafted for you. What do you think of it? Do you want to send it off? And so, so it just makes it, it's like you're skiing downhill your whole workday as opposed to climbing up a hill. And then you get to focus on, as a recruiter or as a hiring manager, you get to focus on the fun stuff of actually getting the person on the call, assessing them, building a relationship with them, as opposed to the drudgery of typing and searching.
Yeah, that's so true. And the whole process is really so cumbersome. It starts with sourcing candidates, then messaging candidates. Some recruiters send dozens of messages per day on LinkedIn or via email. So if someone can get kind of rid of all of these activities, it definitely makes the job of the talent acquisition specialist easier. So they can, as you say, focus on engaging with candidates. So some people may really wonder, like, so what's next? Like, people are kind of wondering how to navigate through their career, how to, kind of get ready for what's coming next. So you kind of say that the sourcing will be anyway automated. So let's not kind of spend too much time learning how to source, right? That could be counterproductive. So then what's next for people? Engagement, of course, but can you break it down for people who may not really, kind of visualize what do you mean by engaging or screening? What do you mean? How should they prepare for the job then?
Can you like rephrase the question? Like, yeah, I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, a recruiter who will start using tools like yours or pretty much any other tool out there that kind of sources candidates and starts sending the messages automatically. So then what is left for recruiters? Should people be worried about their jobs, or should they start learning some new skills? What should they do?
Right. Yeah. So I talked about this a little bit earlier when I was describing how aspects of this sourcing, ranking the right candidates for a role, drafting messages, these kinds of things can be done in an automated way. Again, with us, it's still human in the loop. So, there's a human making executive decisions on, is this person really a right fit for the role based on things that the machine couldn't possibly guess about, maybe conversations that you've had with the client, or your own personal experience getting that blended in. So there's a human making executive decisions throughout the process. I don't see us, at least, moving away from that anytime soon. And same kind of thing with the messages. We're suggesting drafts, but you ultimately can be editing it, or making other kinds of changes, expanding it before sending it off. And yeah, over time, we can be learning your kind of style and the kinds of messages that you do. So hopefully there's less and less editing, but humans will still be doing making executive decisions. And I think this is similar to a lot of other industries where radiology, for example, so physicians that specialize in reading scans, brain scans, tumor scans, while machines can do a lot of that image detection kind of work more accurately than a human radiologist, that is only a small part of the radiologist's day. It's about 10% of the day. And they still need to be making executive decisions on the suggestions that the algorithm makes, because you need to have a human that's liable. And actually, it's no different in hiring. You don't want to have machines fully automatically making these decisions. There needs to be a human who's liable to make sure that great decisions are being made, that unbiased decisions are being made. That is also something that we can help with in our platform. So we have a toggle that by default is something that an individual can choose to toggle on or off, but you could do this at an organizational level as well, where you click a toggle and all names become initials, all profile photos are taken away, and that goes all the way through to the messaging step. So you can be using tools like ours to be reducing bias in the process. But anyway, we were asking about what value humans can provide. And yeah, so in addition to making those executive decisions, the thing that I said earlier in this episode already is that humans, for the foreseeable future, I think are critical in most kinds of jobs in actually developing relationships with the clients and with the candidates. There are demos out there. There's a famous one from a company called AIR, AIR, that is showing how theoretically a salesperson could be automated. And so it's not a huge jump to imagine that you could theoretically have a machine that is carrying out the conversation on a phone, or on a Zoom call, I guess with the video off for now, at least, where it's actually just a machine and there isn't a human there. But that is not something that I think a lot of people will go for. It's hard to imagine on either side, the client or the talent, buying into that. There might be a more narrow set of circumstances. So for example, in very high turnover industries like restaurant service industry, where I believe that it's something like the average tenure in those kinds of roles is like a month. And so there's like tons of volume, tons of onboarding. Retention is low, and so in those kinds of roles, you could imagine maybe some aspects of recruitment and onboarding can be done in an automated way. But for someone like you that specializes in tech recruiting, and so imagine that's also a lot of your audience, that's, I mean, given how in demand people in technology roles are, software developers, data scientists, it's really, I think it would be a very small percentage that would be okay with a fully automated experience. They want to feel that they are special and deserve a white glove experience. And so your skill as a tech recruiter in building relationships, building rapport, finding great opportunities for people, this isn't something that is going to be automated away anytime soon.
Awesome. And it's great that you mentioned also the client acquisition, because that's what the tech recruiters often do as well. As a part of their job, they reach out to clients, they build a relationship. Interesting. Okay. And I was just thinking, as you were kind of describing how it works with all those messages that are now being prepared, but I can imagine it's just a step towards just automating those bulk emails to be sent, right? Because people are lazy, right? So sometimes it is just kind of easier to push one button and send an email to 300 people.
Absolutely. And you can do that in our platform today. So if you want to do like drip style campaigns where the first message, the second message, the third message are the same to everyone in a given project or a given category, you can do that kind of stuff today in our Nebula platform. Yeah.
So then what do you expect will happen kind of on the market with those recipients? Because if, let's say, your platform has tens of thousands of recruiters using it, and then another AI platforms have another tens of thousands of users using them, and everyone is kind of sending all these bulk messages, what kind of impact do you envision on the recipients of those emails? Like, will it still work in a year, in 5 years?
Yeah, so that you just described, that's not something that's going to happen. That's something that has happened. And so already today, whether it's sales emails or it's recruitment emails, we get bombarded with these on a daily basis. I never look in my spam folder, because if I do look in there, it's just dozens of these messages every day. And so yeah, it isn't my recommendation that you go down that road as a recruiter. My recommendation is that you do want bespoke messages, as opposed to sending 300 out, having a draft created for you that's bespoke to the recipient, that's bespoke to the job that you're hiring for, that's bespoke to you and your company, and the hiring company. Having that kind of message is going to resonate a lot more with the recipient. It's going to be hopefully obvious that a human was involved in the approval, maybe the editing of this message, and that this is high quality outreach, that you're not just getting spammed yet again that day. So that, I think, is the big change.
It's interesting. I tried to imagine my mailbox, and it's also full of these sales messages. And sometimes I get also messages from recruiters. They have some, junior HR generalist role, and they send me, "Hey, you seem to be a perfect fit." And I'm like, well, it's clearly not a person who would be looking at the profile, sending those emails. But yeah, it's kind of interesting now, just to imagine, what kind of impact it will have on humans. Like, they will start looking for proofs that someone adjusted the message just because, everyone expects at some point that it is written by AI.
Well, yeah, and so what should be happening, and what we already see with our data science R&D at Nebula, is that those messages can be drafted in a way often that require no editing and that are indistinguishable from the highest quality human outreach. It could be the case that it is higher quality and more engage worthy than content that you could have created yourself. And as we begin to roll out this functionality and collect data on the kinds of messages that people actually respond to, we're going to be able to get better and better. And so we will be suggesting messages to you that far exceed the quality that you could come up with on your own. And it's done for you in obviously a small fraction of the time that it would take you to draft that fully manually.
Yeah.
So that is, I think, definitely the way that things are going in the very near future. And hopefully we're playing a big role in that shift.
Yeah, that's really exciting to hear. Awesome, great. I mean, this is the industry is changing so fast that people may not even be able to look at all these new tools popping up. My LinkedIn feed every day consists of several recommendations of the latest and greatest AI tool. So do you have any favorite tools that you would recommend, or some tools that you tried and you like them besides Nebula, of course?
So there aren't that many other tools out there that I love, but kind of the big obvious ones in this space, probably all of your listeners are already aware of it. There's LinkedIn Recruiter, which is, it's extremely expensive, but they have access to kind of the most up-to-date data. The big gap with them is the quality of their matching. So they're doing, like all the incumbent platforms, they use keyword-based matching as opposed to our kind of matching, which understands your query and which is able to look for appropriate synonyms. I mean, you could have your top match that comes back for a given role that you're hiring for. There could be literally no overlapping words, but they could
Wow.
still be the perfect fit because, so something in your space, imagine you have a job description that talks a lot about object-oriented programming. But it doesn't mention any specific programming languages. We could then be taking that and bringing back for you profiles that use lots of object-oriented technologies, but never mention OOP anywhere on the profile. So that's the kind of thing that our kind of searching does. This semantic understanding, this nuanced understanding, using state-of-the-art AI approaches like deep learning, specifically transformer architectures, which are the same kinds of technology that you see behind these tools like ChatGPT. But while tools like ChatGPT are focused on generating text, our matching takes advantage of this same kind of technology to attend to and to understand natural language in a nuanced way. But then downstream, we use it for the application of matching as opposed to generating text. In that, we obviously do. I've been talking about generative AI applications in our platform as well, but it's something that people might not be aware of, listeners might not be aware of, is that these same kinds of technologies, deep learning, transformer architectures of deep learning, they can be used for more than just generating text. And so, yeah, we're leveraging that for our matching. And it absolutely blows out of the water incumbent platforms like LinkedIn Recruiter that use keyword-based search. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously the big incumbent. And then there's tools like Zoom Info that people can be using to dig up contact details. There's tools like MailChimp that you could be using to manage your drip campaigns and to be sending those out. And Nebula today can do all of those things together. So it's got the LinkedIn Recruiter part where you can be sourcing. It's got the Zoom Info part where we're pulling out contact details for you. And it's got the kind of the MailChimp part where we're allowing you to manage those messaging campaigns. I'd like to think they were doing a better job than all of those incumbents, but those are kind of the big names to mention. Another tool out there that I've experimented with in the past that's kind of interesting, if you're interested in avoiding having biased language in the messages that you draft, there's a tool called Textio, so Textio, that allows you to put in any given message that you might write or job description that you might put together, and it can it'll provide guidance on language that might be biased towards a male applicant versus a female applicant, for example.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, we'll check it out, and I'll include these links also in the description. It's interesting that you mentioned LinkedIn Recruiter. Probably the and I'm just thinking from my standpoint of the recruiter, like the dream would come true once a tool, a platform like yours would connect with LinkedIn. But of course, they don't want that, in Microsoft. They I assume, kind of want to keep everything separated. They don't have any APIs, right, to connect to. So, yeah, that's kind of a pity because lots of people just respond to messages on LinkedIn.
Yeah, although I think the data bear out that the LinkedIn message response rates are quite poor. And so, yeah, I mean, it seems, in a professional context for most kinds of roles, email seems like the key way of reaching out to people. Again, that outreach has to be custom, in my view. It has to be something that really resonates with the recipient and gets them excited. And batch spam is not going to do that, I don't think, in many circumstances. There are also rules out there where SMS is the right kind of option. So our Nebula platform and some of its predecessors, so using the same kind of technology, the same team, we've built platforms for recruitment companies. And for example, in the nursing space, the norm for nurses is SMS for recruiting, or potentially like a phone app, but they're not very, unlike the kinds of tech roles that you and your audience specialize in, nurses aren't typically opening up a laptop and applying to jobs. So that's so for us, those were the key two channels, email and SMS. And you have to get your choice right based on the kinds of roles that you're hiring for. But I think if you do that, like email for the tech industry, SMS for nursing, you're going to get much better response rates than with a LinkedIn message anyway.
Interesting. Or probably WhatsApp at some point, or Messenger. So
yeah, for sure. Or Slack or Discord. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you could be. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, we hope to have more of those kinds of integrations, more and more of them, as time goes on. Yeah, and something that's potentially cool to mention is that this kind of flow that I've described to you, a prototype of the Nebula platform, of some of that functionality that we rolled out for a fast-growing recruitment company in the US called GQR. They were able to see inside the first year of using this platform, they had $1.5 million in revenue attributed to these kinds of automated flows.
Wow.
And it's particularly impressive when you consider that this was really only a handful of the recruiters there that were trying out the tool. And so, individuals were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of placements through this kind of flow that I'm describing, where suggestions of candidates are pushed to you. You wake up in the morning and you have an email notification that's like, hey, check out these great candidates for your role. And then, the follow-on flow that I'm really excited about this coming soon of the messages. I think it's going to lead to even more revenue. This idea of skiing downhill, of it just being a breeze to do recruitment. And you mentioned also earlier about client acquisition obviously being a huge part of a recruiter's job. And while I can't give you a timeline on when we'll have that kind of functionality, we are absolutely aware of that at Nebula, and we will be these same kinds of flows for suggesting talent and messages to talent. We will be suggesting to you clients and messages to clients. And so based on the kinds of roles that you have been filling in the platform, we can say, look at company X, Y, and Z, because they've been posting lots of jobs on the internet for roles that are similar to the kinds of roles that you're hiring. And here's an initial outreach message that we suggest for them.
That's very cool. I like how it all combines together and gets together. So that's very cool. And the number $1.5 million, that's just so impressive, isn't it? Just unbelievable. So I will definitely include a link in the show notes so that people can check it out. And before we wrap it up, is there any kind of final advice that you would like to kind of share with the audience, with tech recruiters who may be just transitioning to tech recruiting, and they are probably even a bit scared of all these, AI stuff, if I simplify it a bit? Do you have any kind of advice that you would like to share with them?
Yeah, for sure. So I, on a daily basis, am using tools like GPT-4 within the ChatGPT Plus interface, you absolutely should be paying for that ChatGPT Plus subscription, because GPT-4 is, at least at this time of recording this episode, it is head and shoulders the state of the art. If you're doing real-time searching for some tasks on the web, I highly recommend Google Bard, which is available for free. I find it works much, much better than the ChatGPT Plus web search, which uses Bing. So perhaps unsurprisingly, doing a Google Bard search gets you better results than using that Bing inside ChatGPT. And there's also, if you're working on anything that requires a lot of natural language context, you can check out Anthropic's Claude, which can handle at the time of recording, their publicly available chat interface supports up to 100,000 characters. Sorry, not characters, 100,000 tokens, which is roughly 200, 300 pages of text that you can provide as context. And perhaps by the time this episode is live, that context will be up to 200,000 tokens, which is about 500 pages of text. So yeah, so anyway, those are kind of for general tasks. So, not just for the talent acquisition parts of your day, but for any number of tasks, drafting. I was using it recently for drafting for ideas for a holiday card message, or you can be using it for ideas like, I'm in this particular business circumstance. What recommendations do you have for increasing revenue or profit margins? You can be there's obviously billions, an infinite number of possible use cases for these kinds of tools in your daily life. And so, yeah, I highly recommend. I mean, you can't be scared of these tools. You've got to jump in feet first and just be experimenting every day. And yeah, I think it makes life more enjoyable. It makes work easier and more enjoyable. And so, yeah, get in there. Get in there with the general tools, and get in there with the specialized tools like Nebula for your talent acquisition.
Awesome. So with these encouraging words, I guess we can wrap it up. Thanks for sharing all these insights with fellow recruiters. I will also include links to the company Nebula, also your LinkedIn profile if people would like to connect. And yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks again for being a part of this show.
For sure. Yeah. I would add that if you are a listener to this podcast episode, if you do make a connection request on LinkedIn, please include that it was because you were listening to this podcast episode that you're interested, because I'm like, I get way too many LinkedIn requests to accept them all. But, if you mentioned that you were a listener to this show, to this episode, and yeah, particularly if, you're interested in learning more about Nebula, then I can connect you with the right folks in our company for getting you going, trying out the product, and answering all your questions about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Have a wonderful day.